I'm going to talk about the interdisciplinary art resident research projects. So you might ask, why on earth are we talking about interdisciplinary art in health research? And by art, we mean any of the creative arts, which includes audio, like music or drama, writing, like creative writing or biography, and visual arts. And we know from the literature that artistic expression is therapeutic for patients in illness and in their healing and in wellness. We also know that artistic expression is therapeutic for healthcare provider, for their burnout, for their healing and their wellness. We do know that artistic expression fosters their self-reflection and reflective practices amongst healthcare practitioners. And we do know that artistic expression for healthcare providers fosters their empathy. So I do have literature to support each of these statements, which I will post on your module that you can read later. So we do know all these things about artistic expression amongst health. And so we want to encourage people to be involved in artistic expression. However, interdisciplinary art scholarship is not quite the same as personal artistic reflection, so it takes it a bit further. So you could do some artistic expression and keep it personal and private, and that would be great. It would probably help you, but that's not scholarship. So what interdisciplinary art scholarship does is it locates you, the artist and the researcher, in a community of practice and within interpersonal relationships. And also, if it's done within the context of family medicine, it furthers the knowledge of family medicine, so that we are developing our knowledge base as a discipline. So we encourage you to consider doing an interdisciplinary art resident project, but I need to warn you that it's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted, and you have to be fairly passionate that this is something you want to do, but I really want to encourage you to consider doing this. So we have a lot of guidelines for you on the intranet. I encourage you to look at them. You have to think about the ethical considerations of your project, and obviously if your project involves any human participants, you will need UBC Research Ethics Board review. Even if you think, oh, my project is not research, I don't need ethics. I remember that some residents wanted to write a play and they didn't think that actually it required ethics. We discussed it, and yes, we encouraged them to actually put in a Research Ethics Board application. And when it was received and reviewed by the chair of the board actually said it probably doesn't require it, so they got a written statement saying that it was exempt from ethics, which was great, because it meant that we were all covered, because the play that they were writing could potentially have had some ethical implications because of the people that they were actually framing in their play. So the bottom line is that you should be applying for research ethics, and if it's deemed you don't need it, then you get it in writing, and then you have that as part of your documentation. Also, you should have a faculty advisor from your chosen discipline who agrees to advise you and mentor you through your project. So for example, if you want to do a music project, then you should have a faculty advisor from the Faculty of Music at a university or community college, somebody who can actually help mentor you in the discipline that you're developing. You should demonstrate that the process of completing your project will result in your own personal growth or your increased competence in that discipline. And you obviously should be showing that the academic understanding of how you're integrating this discipline into your discipline of family medicine. You should demonstrate how you've thought how that should be, and that obviously your proposed project should contribute to the knowledge base of family medicine. So that's not to put you off, but just to explain that there are some parameters and some guidelines for this project. So I'm going to tell you about some of the residents that we've had the pleasure of seeing their projects over the years, and again we do have references for their publications which you can find on the internet. So the first one is Verdant Whispers, an exploration of domestic abuse in South Asian community. Amrit Paul Arora, in first year residency, said, I would love to do a creative writing piece. I've never done any creative writing before. And I went, whoops, okay, let's go for it. But he said, I want to do a good job. So what he wanted to do was explore the effects of domestic abuse on South Asian women in British Columbia. And so he applied for ethics and did some in-depth interviews with 11 South Asian women who were victims of domestic abuse. And he did one-to-one interviews and group interviews. And then he analysed the interviews for common themes and used these to inspire his creative writing. And he wrote a short story describing a woman who came to Canada in an arranged marriage, and then how she dealt with the domestic violence in her marriage and how the family physician in her life helped her through that crisis. It's a very moving story. I'd encourage you to read it. Suzanne Waters worked with 6 Canadian physicians who each suffered from a disease, and she did in-depth interviews, analysed their interviews, and integrated their stories into a patchwork quilt, which were woven into 3 quilts, each depicting a common theme. And the quilts conveyed the commonality of the illness experience and portrayed the physician-patient's personal experiences. It was a very moving piece of work and was showed in various places across the country, got quite a bit of media attention. At the same time, Melissa Lem was very moved by this project and read the transcripts, immersed herself in the transcripts of these illness experiences, and she composed and performed and recorded 3 songs to accompany the quilt. And so her aim was to provide the audience with a deeper connection with the quilt by creating a multi-sensory environment in which they could more fully explore what it's like to be on the other side of the examining table. And we do have recordings of these songs that you can listen to, and also a personal reflection essay that Melissa wrote about the experience of doing this in her residency project. We Don't Live in Igloos, Inuvik Youth Speak Out. Janet Ip, again in first year residency, said, I want to create a documentary film, and she wanted to explore the health problems of youth in the Canadian North and what solutions these youth proposed to address the health problems. The youth were given free disposable cameras for 2 weeks and asked to photograph anything meaningful to them, to their health, such as activities and friends and family or the environment. And then the youth discussed the meaning of their photographs during some in-depth interviews, and Janet invited 3 youths to feature in the film We Don't Live in Igloos. Yvette Liu is an actor and wanted to write a play, so she wrote a play called Stories from the Closet, and she examined what life is like for someone who lives with chronic illness. And she has played the play repeatedly to various audiences, medical professionals, patients, anyone who's been touched by chronic illness. So to write the play, she interviewed 3 women with chronic illness. She analysed the interview transcript and used the emerging themes as inspiration for her play. So the play is an 80-minute one-woman play featuring 10 monologues, and it's a very powerful play. And finally, Susan Nouch and Jill Coons wanted to create a documentary, and their documentary is called Safe and Sound, and it's an award-winning 30-minute film, and it captures the poignant stories of transition of newly arrived refugees in Vancouver, and it uses the voice of 5 refugees to piece together their experiences, and so exposes the challenges of transition to life in Vancouver. So they won a Lloyd Jones Collins Award for it, and they also won the Family Medicine Resident Award for scholarship. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and all the best to you in your endeavours.